They never notice the exact moment he disappears, but they always feel the moment he returns. A Sigma male doesn't re-emerge the same way he vanished. He comes back sharper, quieter, and carrying a gravity that subtly distorts every room he walks into. People don't understand why they sit up straighter around him, why conversations shift, why their own insecurities suddenly feel louder. But his transformation doesn't just change him, it changes everyone orbiting him.
When a Sigma male rebuilds himself and steps back into the world, it's as if the air adjusts to his new frequency. Old dynamics collapse, hidden truths surface, power balances shift without a single word being spoken. And those who once underestimated him now sense, instinctively, that something has evolved, something they can't predict, control, or ignore.
If you know this energy, if you felt yourself return stronger than the world expected, tell me below, what part of you changed the most after your last disappearance? And if you want to continue decoding the psychology of silent power, invisible influence, and rebirth, subscribe to Silent Wise so you don't miss what's coming next. His return shifts the emotional atmosphere. People feel the change before they understand it. When a Sigma male re-emerges, the shift is immediate and unmistakable. The air around him feels different, sharper, calmer, more anchored, as if he brought back a new gravitational field that pulls attention without asking for it. People sense it before they can name it. Conversations slow when he enters a room. Instincts sharpen, and those who once overlooked him suddenly become hyper-aware of his presence. It's not something he performs, it's something he radiates. His energy carries the quiet weight of someone who left one version of himself behind and returned carrying something more refined, more focused, more formidable. And because emotional atmospheres don't lie, people feel the change long before they understand its source. The ones closest to him notice it first. They can't pinpoint the moment, but they recognize the difference. A steadier gaze, a calmer posture, a silence that feels intentional rather than distant. His withdrawal had created a void. His return fills that void with a presence that is stronger, colder, and more self-contained than before. This creates an immediate recalibration in others. People who once dominated conversations now pause. Those who relied on his softness feel unsettled. The ones with hidden motives start to fidget under his quiet scrutiny. His return forces everyone to confront themselves because the new version of him reflects back truths they were comfortable ignoring. As he settles into environments he once belonged to, the ripple effect becomes even more obvious. Dynamics shift. Power structures wobble. Old expectations dissolve. People begin treating him differently even without understanding why. Some with newfound respect, others with subtle fear, a few with curiosity they can't suppress. He didn't come back seeking recognition, yet his presence commands it effortlessly. The Sigma male doesn't announce his evolution, he lets the atmosphere speak for him. And the atmosphere always speaks first, always louder than words, revealing the silent transformation that makes everyone feel the change before they ever comprehend it. His new boundaries force others to adjust, revealing who respects him and who resists him. When the Sigma male reappears after a period of isolation and rebuilding, one of the first changes people feel is the shift in his boundaries. They're sharper, cleaner, and enforced with a calm certainty that wasn't there before. He no longer entertains draining conversations, tolerates hidden agendas, or allows access without purpose. His boundaries aren't loud or aggressive, they're simply immovable. And the moment they appear, the entire social landscape around him begins to reorganize. People who were accustomed to his flexibility suddenly feel the walls closing in. Those who counted on his silence now realize it no longer means compliance. His presence signals a new rule. Energy must be earned, not assumed. This quiet firmness creates an immediate divide. Some people instinctively adjust, recognizing the strength behind his new limits. They speak more respectfully, choose their words carefully, and approach him with a maturity they should have shown long ago. They understand that boundaries are not barriers, but indicators of growth, and they match his evolution with their own. These individuals start treating him as the grounded, self-directed force he has become. Their behavior shifts not because he demands it, but because the new version of him inspires or requires it. They begin to respect the space he protects, the time he values, and the emotional clarity he now insists on. But others react differently. The ones who benefited from his old leniency feel threatened. They resist the change, push against the new limits, or attempt subtle guilt tactics when their access is reduced. Some grow distant when they realize they can no longer manipulate his empathy. Others become irritated, confused, or even quietly hostile when they sense they've lost influence. His boundaries expose them effortlessly, not through conflict, but through their own reactions. In the end, the Sigma male doesn't need to confront anyone. His evolution does it for him. Those who respect him rise closer. Those who resist fall away. His boundaries become the filter that reveals the truth of every connection around him. His upgraded mindset disrupts old dynamics that once kept him small.
When he returns after disappearing into his quiet rebuilding phase, the first shockwave he creates is mental, not physical. His mindset is sharper, leaner, and far more strategic than before. The doubts that once slowed him are gone, replaced by a grounded clarity that refuses to bend to old expectations. He no longer enters rooms trying to adapt. He enters aware, self-directed, and uninterested in shrinking to make others comfortable. That shift alone destabilizes dynamics that once relied on his silence or hesitation. People sense immediately that the version of him who tolerated nonsense, carried emotional weight, or absorbed blame no longer exists. His presence feels different because he is different, and the energy recalibrates around him. As he interacts with familiar spaces, his new mindset reveals fractures that were always there. He sees emotional manipulation for what it is. He recognizes dependency disguised as loyalty. He detects insecurity behind dominance and ego behind fake warmth. With this upgraded internal lens, he no longer plays roles others assigned him. He stops being the quiet supporter, the reliable fixer, the one who absorbs chaos so others can stay comfortable. Even subtle shifts, speaking less, observing more, redirecting conversations, refusing unspoken obligations, cause people to stumble. What used to work on him no longer reaches him. Old patterns fail. Old hierarchies crack. People who relied on his predictability suddenly have none. And that destabilization reveals who truly valued him, and who valued the version of him that was easier to use.
But the most dramatic disruption happens within relationships that were built on imbalance. When he no longer responds out of guilt, fear, or habit, the entire foundation shakes. Those who depended on his passivity lose their sense of control. Those who underestimated him start feeling exposed. And those who thought of him as safe to ignore now feel strangely intimidated by his quiet certainty. His evolution forces everyone around him to evolve too, or fall away. His mindset becomes a silent earthquake, dismantling the structures that once confined him and clearing space for a life aligned with who he has finally become. His silence becomes more powerful than conversation, compelling others to listen differently. When he re-emerges with a stronger, sharper internal world, his silence takes on a different weight. It's no longer the quiet of avoidance or contemplation. It's the quiet of someone who no longer wastes breath where it won't matter. People feel it immediately. His pauses stretch longer, not out of discomfort, but control. His stillness isn't passive, it's intentional. And in that intention, others begin to lean in, trying to decode what he's not saying. The absence of his voice becomes louder than any argument he could ever make. His silence forces people to confront the truth. They never really listened to him before, but now they're afraid to miss even the slightest cue. As he interacts with familiar faces, conversations shift on their own. The people who used to dominate dialogue suddenly hesitate. The ones who relied on his quiet compliance now wait for signals they never needed before. His silence creates a pressure that filters authenticity from performance. Those who spoke to impress fall quiet themselves. Those who spoke to manipulate lose their rhythm. Those who sought validation feel strangely exposed. His silence becomes a mirror, one that reflects their intentions, insecurities, and motives with uncomfortable clarity. Without raising his voice, he changes the emotional temperature of every room he enters. Without correcting anyone, he makes them correct themselves. But the true power of his silence appears in how people begin treating it with respect. They notice he doesn't speak unless there is meaning behind his words. They recognize that if he chooses silence, it isn't withdrawal, it's observation. They begin to measure their behavior more carefully, aware that he sees what they hope he won't. They listen more closely, even when he says nothing at all. And in that shift, his silence becomes leadership. It guides without force, influences without effort, and commands without noise. What once was seen as distance is now recognized as strength, and what once was ignored becomes the most compelling force in the room.
His renewed clarity exposes hidden agendas and weak intentions around him. When he returns with sharper perception and a rebuilt inner world, he sees through people with a precision that didn't exist before. The fog that once made excuses for others has lifted. Suddenly, every inconsistency stands out. Every half-truth becomes obvious.
Every hidden motive reveals its edges.
He no longer interprets actions through old emotional filters, the ones that once softened red flags or silenced intuition. Instead, he observes without attachment, and in that state, people's intentions become transparent. Even the smallest shift in tone or behavior reads like a confession. His clarity acts like a spotlight, illuminating dynamics that once operated in the shadows. As he moves through familiar circles, this heightened awareness changes everything. People who once approached him with charm now feel exposed under his gaze. Their tactics no longer land. Those who sought to use his empathy struggle when he stops supplying the emotional energy they depended on. The ones who pretended loyalty can no longer hide the cracks in their performance. He sees when their words don't match their behavior, when their enthusiasm is hollow, when their respect is conditional. His clarity disrupts their comfort. They feel the quiet judgment in his silence, the way he steps back before they even realize they've betrayed themselves. Without confronting anyone, he reveals their truth by simply noticing it. And with each revelation, his world restructures. He withdraws from those whose intentions wobble under pressure and gravitates toward those who show consistency, even when unseen. His choices sharpen, his boundaries solidify. People sense the shift and react. Some become defensive, others nervous, others suddenly genuine. His clarity forces everyone to show their real alignment. But the biggest transformation happens within him. He no longer doubts what he sees. He trusts his intuition fully now, knowing it has never failed him. He just wasn't ready to believe it. With this renewed vision, he steps forward untouched by manipulation, immune to deception, and anchored in a level of awareness few can match. His presence inspires some to level up and intimidates others into retreat. When he re-enters a space after disappearing to rebuild himself, something in the atmosphere shifts instantly. People feel the upgrade before they understand it. His energy is calmer, sharper, more anchored, and that shift acts like a mirror. Those who have been stagnant suddenly feel the weight of their own complacency. Those who have been growing feel pulled even higher just by being near him. His presence challenges people without him saying a word. The disciplined way he moves, the intention behind his silence, the focus in his eyes, all of it communicates a standard that makes others reassess their own.
Some feel genuinely inspired, realizing they can rise alongside him.
Others feel exposed, recognizing how far they've drifted from their own potential. As this internal reaction spreads, the room subtly reorganizes around him. People who have been coasting on charm or status begin to falter. His groundedness disrupts their illusions. They sense he can't be impressed by superficial accomplishments, nor manipulated by ego-driven games. The ones who value growth instinctively lean in, asking sharper questions, improving their habits, stepping into more mature versions of themselves. Meanwhile, those who rely on control, validation, or emotional dependence start retreating. His independence threatens their foundations. They can't predict him, they can't influence him, and they can't perform around someone who sees through the act. His arrival becomes a psychological filter that separates authenticity from insecurity.
And beneath these reactions, he remains completely unmoved. He notices the shift, but he does not feed it. His presence simply radiates the stability he fought to regain during his rebuild. He doesn't demand that anyone rise, but his existence makes rising the only option for those who want to remain in his orbit. Some follow willingly, grateful for the catalyst. Others flee, unable to handle the pressure of being seen so clearly. Yet regardless of who stays or leaves, one truth becomes undeniable. His return doesn't just change him, it changes everyone around him. His evolution resets every relationship. Only the authentic ones survive his transformation. When he returns after a period of disappearance and rebuilding, his evolution acts like a silent reset button on every relationship in his life. People who once felt close to him suddenly realize they no longer know him the way they thought they did. His energy is different, steadier, clearer, firmer, and that shift changes the terms of every interaction. The roles he used to play no longer fit him. The dynamics he used to tolerate no longer hold power. His new boundaries are unspoken but unmistakable, and anyone who approaches him now must meet him with sincerity or not at all. This transition isn't hostile. It's simply a natural consequence of internal growth. He no longer bends to be understood, and he no longer shrinks to make space for others. His transformation forces people to show who they really are. As conversations resume and connections attempt to re-establish themselves, the fault lines appear quickly. Those who depended on the older version of him, the one who accommodated too much, explained too much, or forgave too easily, feel an uncomfortable distance. They sense that his new clarity leaves no room for half-truths, attachment games, or inconsistent loyalty. Some pull back because they can no longer extract the emotional reassurance he once offered effortlessly. Others try to reconnect using outdated dynamics, only to realize they're speaking to a man who no longer lives in that emotional landscape. But the ones who truly cared, the ones who valued him beyond what he provided, step forward without hesitation. They adapt with grace, meet him where he is, and embrace the version of him he fought to become. By the time the dust settles, what remains is a refined circle shaped by authenticity. Not by history, not by obligation, not by comfort. His evolution becomes a filter, the kind that quietly removes anyone who was attached to his old limitations while elevating those who align with his new strength. The relationships that survive are deeper, cleaner, and more reciprocal. And he walks forward with the calm awareness that losing connections was never the real loss. The only true loss would have been staying the same so others could remain comfortable. When a man rebuilds himself in silence, the world only sees the aftershock, not the battle, not the discipline, not the sacrifices that sculpted the new version of him. And that's why his re-emergence feels powerful. He didn't ask for permission, he didn't announce his growth, and he didn't wait for anyone to catch up. He simply became who he was meant to be, and the shift speaks louder than any explanation ever could. If you felt this transformation in your own life, the quiet strengthening, the inner recalibration, the recognition that you can never go back to who you were, understand this. Evolution is not something you owe people clarity about. It is something you owe yourself. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever returned to an environment and realized you outgrew it completely? Or noticed how your silence changed the way people behaved around you? Share your experience in the comments. Your words may be the wake-up call someone else needs.